So we're going to be looking at finding a cube root. A cube root of a number is a number that when multiplied by itself and then multiplied by itself again equals that given number. So it's basically the same number multiplied 3 times together. A perfect cube is a number that can be written as the cube of an integer. So the cube root of 1 equals 1 because 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1 to the third power, equals 1. Same with the cube root of 8 equals 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is going to give us 8. That's 2 to the third power. Okay. This would be a good list to write down due to the fact that these are all perfect cube values. So what's going to happen here is that you have like the cube root of 27 because 3 times 3 times 3 is going to give you 27, which is 3 to the third power. Okay. I would definitely write this down, and then that will help you figure out the next questions that we're going to do. Okay, so this is different than a square root because a square root is the number multiplied by itself. So it's only twice, whereas a cube root is 3 times. So to find the cube root of 8, what's going to happen is you have to think of a number. What number times itself 3 times is going to give us 8? If I could either refer to my charts, so if I look at my chart, I know the answer is going to be 2. If I didn't know that, what would happen is that I would do, so my calculator, I would say you're going to type in 3 because we're going to indicate that it's a cube root. We're going to hit second, then you're going to have this caret button right here, and then you're going to get 8, and you'll get it equals 2. Okay. Now, what's different between a cube root is that you can have a negative underneath the cube root, because if you think about a negative times a negative times a negative will end up with a negative. So here we have to think about what number times itself is going to give us negative 27. And I can look at my chart. The cube root of 27 is 3. So I would have to make sure it's a negative 3 for its value. If I didn't know, what I could do is I could do the same thing for the calculator. I would do 3. I would hit second, the caret symbol, and then I'm going to do negative 27. Gives me negative 3. Okay. This one I have to see if I can simplify inside, and I can't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cube root of the top and cube root of the bottom. So the cube root of 1 is going to be 1. The cube root of 64, I can look at my chart. The cube root of 64 is going to be 4. If I didn't know that, this would be my final answer. If I didn't know that, I could do the same thing. I could do 3, second, the caret symbol, and then 64 gives me 4. So I'm good to go. Okay, same thing here. The cube root of negative 343. I know because it's a negative underneath that it's going to equal a negative value. And then if I refer to my chart here, I know that the cube root of 343 is 7. So that means that my final answer is going to be 7. Okay, this one. I'm going to take the cube root of the top, so negative 27, over the cube root of the bottom, which is 1,000. The cube root of negative 27 is going to be negative 3. The cube root of 1,000 is going to be 10. So that means 10 times 10 times 10 gives me 1,000, and negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 gives me negative 27, which I'm good. The cube root of 1 is 1 because 1 times 1 times 1 is going to give me 1. Now we're going to evaluate the expression. So here, this is saying 2 times the cube root of negative 216 minus 3. So I'm going to look at my chart, and I notice that the cube root of 216 is 6. So I'm going to say 2 times, now it's negative 216, so that's going to be a negative 6 minus 3. So 2 times negative 6 is going to give me a negative 12 minus 3. That's going to leave me with negative 15. Okay. Now, the cube root of 125 is, so let's look at our chart. Cube root of 125 is 5. So that means that the cube root, so this is going to be 5 to the third power plus 21. 5 to the third power is 125. So technically, if you have the cube root, if you're taking the cube root and you're putting it to the third power with this number on the outside, it just kind of cancels the cube root out. So that's why I'm left with 125 plus 21. I'm going to take 125 plus 21, which gives me 146. This one, I'm going to do 18 minus 4 times the cube root of 8. I'm going to do 18 minus 4 times 2, because 2 times 2 times 2 is going to give me 8. So the cube root of 8 is 2. 18 minus 8 is going to be equal to 10. The cube root of negative 64. So I know that the cube root of 64 is 4. So that means that this is going to be a negative 4 to the third power plus 43. That leaves me with negative 64 plus 43. Negative 64 plus 43 is going to give me negative 21. Okay, this is 5 times the cube root of 512 minus 19. Okay, I'm going to take 5 times, let's see what 512 is. That's 8. So 5 times 8 minus 19. That's going to be 40 minus 19, which is going to give me 21.